Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And a jolly good morning to you. This is Newsline, live from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And my guests this morning are the one and only, the inimitable host of Patikada, broadcasting to you on Sirsa TV from 6 o'clock to 6:30 in the morning. And he's right here, Mr. Bandula Jayasekara. Very good morning to you, Bandula.
Good morning, Shaukat.
And how are you?
Fine.
Good. And we're also delighted to have on our network, after a short absence, the one and only Krishmal Warnasunde, legal expert. And wonderful to have you here. I won't describe the other bits that we normally say for you.
Good
How
morning,
are you?
Madam. Good morning, not too bad, thank you.
Bandula, you more than most people will be able to comment on this. It's a man-made mini cyclone, and that is the appointment of a lobbying firm, STNR, as it turns out. How do you view this? You were a diplomat, and you were based in North America for a while. Did you all have? You all did have, thanks to the Sunday Times, it was exposed. We had many other lobby firms in those days.
For us, I must tell you, okay, I served in Canada, New York, and Australia, but Canada was a difficult place, but there was no lobbying firm.
Right.
But I want to be very direct in this. So they had lobbying firm for the US,
Right.
where that time the ambassador was Jali Wickramasuriya.
Yeah.
And I must be, it's sad to say, he served for a long time. Jali was a failure.
Right.
And they had lobbying firm, but you should not have lobbying firm because the ambassadors are posted, they are supposed to do their job.
Yeah.
So that was wrong to have lobbying firms, because if you don't do the job, there's something wrong. So what happened, most of the diplomats did was they got their articles published in Sri Lankan papers, whereas you are supposed to network in that country,
Right.
and get it published and move. They failed, so there was a lobbying firm, but you and I know they also failed.
Right.
And now you have this present situation.
Yeah.
Also, now why this was criticized by the then opposition, and they are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You don't need lobbying firms. Even this, I'm talking about this agreement which is entered by Minister Malik Samarawickrama. Why I say you don't need it is now. Okay, they said Jali was no good. Now you have a foreign service. One thing, a respected good diplomat in Washington.
Right.
Ambassador Prasad Karyam, some very senior respected diplomat. So he's good and he works. So why underestimate Prasad Karyam? And add to that, now America is like our cousin. They are relations.
Indeed, because the joint, the UN was the joint sponsors of that.
And you see, Krishna, also how many number of visitors from the US. So we are buddies. So when you have buddies and you are welcome, why do you need lobbying firms? You don't need that. So because we had Secretary of State John Kerry and various other officials, Nisha Biswal coming over and over. So why do you need? Because we have the American government.
Yeah.
So I don't think you need lobbying firms at all. So that shows, to have lobbying firms, that means the embassy officials or the diplomats have failed. I don't think many other countries have lobbying firms, not even Bangladesh or Maldives.
Really? Well, Krishmal, what do you make of all this? Is it a storm in the teacup, or is there far-reaching consequences and sort of?
Far-reaching consequences would have to be something that we'd have to await for us and see. I noted from the press the Honourable Minister's explanation tendered, but of course the question arises as to why that explanation had to wait until the papers came out with the story. Why it was not perhaps brought before Parliament. Perhaps the Minister's explanation may be, we don't know, that it's nothing that he ought to have brought to Parliament. It's under the public head of expenditure. If there was an issue, the Auditor General will come out with it later. But my having a look at after this was discussed in the press for us, I don't know about how far this agreement pertains to lobbying, because although they claim that the monies have been spent for lobbying, the nature of the agreement to me represents more a lawyer-client agreement rather than you see, for example, now if you look at I'm going on what has been reported in the press.
Yeah.
The scope of engagement is about the focusing efforts on educating about the peace process in Sri Lanka, exploring options of greater economic and commercial ties between the US and Sri Lanka, building friends of Sri Lanka in the caucus in the Senate, visiting delegations obviously from Sri Lanka, and promptly notifying Sri Lanka of any congressional or other interaction. Now, if we are hiring someone to do this, my question is, what do the taxpayers pay the diplomats to do?
You can
have a jolly good party and wait there.
And Krishmal, then you can close down the embassy.
So basically, to assist visiting delegates. So that means they
send a car to the airport, bring them, assist them. Okay, now the New York, this is Statue of Liberty. This is how you go to the beach here. So if you have a firm to do that, why do you need an embassy? Number one, and remember there is radio station, Madhula. We have 5 or 6, I think 5 radio stations in the world which we maintain at very high cost. And also look at now to do this, who are we hiring? A law firm. I said, you can hire a taxi service or some, no, I'm telling you, you can hire a taxi service with some man, learner.
Sorry, you're absolutely right. There's something called Pick Me.
Yeah, Pick
Me.
Yeah,
and you can use Pick Me over there. I think you can use
and also, like Krishman pointed out, what's this peace process you're talking of?
Absolutely.
There's no peace process.
Absolutely.
But can I give this 1 year span now? In the scope of representation, they talk of professional services of the firm may include research, analysis, legal and factual issues, analysis of applicable law, rules, regulation. Now, this is a legal con. You are hiring a set of lawyers to show people around New York and then provide development services. To build friends of Sri Lanka and expand the caucus in the Senate, to assist in visiting delegations. You are hiring lawyers, which is much more clearer when you go to clause 5. Clause attorney-client privilege. So attorney-client privilege only extends to a lawyer and a client. So obviously now I do not look, as I said, the plausibility of this should be explained to the taxpayer who's obviously spending for it. I do not know, number one, Bandula, you are more advanced with me rather than me in that area, as to whether we need a firm to go and show people around New York and show the Statue of Liberty. I don't know.
We don't.
So now number one. Number two is, if we do, whether we need to hire a firm of lawyers to do
and also as to that Krishmal and now what I want to say, Foreign Ministry got a very good legal division. And you know, Dr. Rohan Pereira.
He's there.
He's in New York as our permanent representative. He's a top legal man. He was heading the Foreign Ministry legal department. He's based in New York. You can get his services.
And so it appears to me, from what I've just heard, and my suspicions have been rightly aroused, there seems to be something much more than what appears to be the case. And the minister says that he needs all these things. Perhaps the people in the embassy are so new, Krishma, that they don't know where the Statue of Liberty is.
Then why did they go there? This is another question.
To learn where the Statue of Liberty is.
Now, hang on. Now, we've all been overseas, we worked, studied there. We know how embassies, we've been visiting foreign missions, no? In fact, I had a former senior who was at one time the High Commissioner in England, and when I was doing my postgraduate studies, Bandula, I used to go in and out of the High Commission. I've seen how, this is a bane. You know, there was a time that we had, 4 or 5 cars in the High Commission, but 13 drivers, Bandula. 13 drivers to drive 4 cars. Right?
Then from Moratua.
Then some of the drivers ended up being chefs and cooks in the High Commission because the High Commission didn't have work to give the...
And because let's name names. The senior was, respect Mr. Faiz Mustafa. And then he told me how, when he opened the door, how some of these carpenters ended up in front of his door as sent as drivers. But to move on to this subject...
So we appear to be sending lock, stock and barrel people to our High Commissions for which the taxpayers are paying. And every government, irrespective of who they are, have been doing this. They send their cahoots and their supporters and everyone who wants to go abroad on a free ticket to an embassy or a high commission who
And
have no knowledge of diplomacy or
But
international
there are
relations.
two things, like, so I must tell you, not that I'm trying to flatter Mr. Mustafa, but he was one of the top, as a lawyer. You need both political and
Yes.
foreign policy. But
You have to balance it.
and
Career
now-
diplomats and non-career diplomats.
And for us, take Washington. You are one of the most respected diplomats heading the Washington embassy, Mr. Prasad Karewasam. There's no doubt about his capability. But this is my question. Okay, Jalia, okay, it was different. It was difficult. He was playing to the, he had some good points, but he was more playing to a different gallery, and he served longer than he should have been. So there are a lot of criticism about Jalia heading our Washington embassy. So maybe because he failed, but I don't approve of this lobby first, that means the High Commissioner or Ambassador failed. But now you don't need, when you have somebody like Mr. Karewasam, plus our relationship is very good with the US.
Absolutely.
Excellent relationship.
Absolutely.
Even right now there are people visiting. So why? Because these people are there. The US government is there. President Citizen went, and President Obama reached out to him.
Let's try and find out why then there's a need for lobby groups. Just after this short break. Don't go away. After all, this is Newsline.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And welcome back to Newsline, where my guests this morning are Messrs. Bandula Jayasekara and Krishna Varnasurya. That sounds like a nice legal firm's name. Jayasekara and Varnasurya.
And Shaukat Ali.
What have you spotted? You've spotted something in that agreement.
No, just to harp back on that now, we are hiring a law firm, obviously, because they are bound by lawyer-client privilege, right? And they say that they are going to advise us on the regulations, laws, and changes in laws and all that, which an advertising firm can't do. No, it has to be a law firm, right? Now, but to do that, we are hiring a law firm now to do what? You to promptly notify Sri Lanka of any congressional or administrative action of importance to Sri Lanka. So pray, what are our embassy staff, ambassador, deputies, secretaries,
Political officers,
liaison officers, what are all the, if we need to hire a firm at massive expense, I don't know how much we are spending on it.
630,000 United States
US dollars of our money, of the tax that we have to cough up, because they say that they couldn't find the gold and all and the palaces now. So now we have to pay extra tax to even maintain this, and we are paying that for them, so some firm to notify Sri Lanka of any changes that may affect Sri Lanka. So then
this is done so easily on your email. You can just type in some keywords, and the minute those keywords pop up wherever, you get an email and you get an alert. So we are paying a firm $630,000 to almost do that.
So that Badula was trying to say, now this is what I'm sure you don't know. This is what our officers have to do. No, they used to go and attend cocktails, felicitations, charities, make friends with the US people in the Congress or in the Senate, then find out information. That's exactly why that protocol is set. No,
and also, Krishna, these are in the open.
In
so
the open.
You can easily find
but my
out.
question, I have a fear here, because of what we were referring to earlier, for us, that we have not been sending the right people. Maybe our fellows who go there can't actually go to cocktails or a party and do this. They can't communicate. I don't know, I'm assuming.
I have a viewer who's saying to me, Dr. Harsha made a comment recently that even without appointments, high-level officials in the United States wanted to meet him. He must be lying.
No, I saw Harsha has gone on. I saw on Twitter he has gone on a personal visit. He has met officials. He has gone to the US, but he has met. So there is, and also let's not forget Faraz, when some time ago Prime Minister Wickremesinghe said, you don't need some of these people. Our connections and contacts are so good. Remember that thing he said, that
Indeed.
we have connections.
Another comment.
Can I just add to what Bandula just 30 seconds? Bandula, it doesn't take the Honorable Deputy Minister. Last year, I think year before, the US government sponsored 7 of us lawyers in Asia on what they called a Future Leaders program, if you remember. And they had meetings for us with Congress people, Supreme Court judges, everyone. I mean, it didn't take a firm to arrange all that.
I think we should, that's a good point, that. I think going back to this person who sent me this thing about Dr. Harsha, perhaps we ought to call Dr. Harsha and ask him if this is the veracity of this claim. We might just do that, because I'm told that Minister Samaravikrama claims that he answers his phone and he's very open. Well, I'm not so sure about that. I have on here several messages and records of me trying to call the minister to appear on this program and on the hot seat, trying to make an appointment. At the beginning of his appointment, he certainly did answer the phone, actually himself. Now, it is constantly answered by members of his entourage, and I don't get an appointment. It's not a big deal. We've extended the invitation. I'm just trying to say that they're not as open as they
But
claim.
on this, sorry if I was on this, where I am not sure whether Minister Samara is aware of this contact. This is entered with the Minister Samaravikrama's ministry. So I hope the foreign ministry is informed.
Well, yes, but according to the explanation that the Minister Samaravikrama says, he says that the foreign ministry was informed, and the proof of what he's saying, the justification is that the cabinet routinely has advised all ministries, including the foreign ministry, that this was happening, and that on the day they would have known. It isn't the same as involving the foreign ministry somehow. It seems to me that it's by the way. Even the Ministry of Prisons Department and whoever it is would have automatically received notification from the cabinet.
May I just bring in a transparency angle to this, because we are discussing exactly what you were just saying, whether the foreign ministry was informed or not, Bandula. For this reason, now, if this is the first occasion this was happening, perhaps it's justified for the minister to come and give this explanation that, well, I didn't really need to inform, or, well, this was a transaction that would have come out in the ordinary course of events anyway. But since we are now prosecuting the previous regime, or trying to prosecute a then minister or deputy minister of a previous regime for doing the exact same thing, which means that we have found fault with this having done by the previous regime. Then was it not incumbent upon the present regime, if they were doing the same thing?
Absolutely.
That is my question. If they were doing the same thing, what is good for the gander must be good with the goose.
Yes.
You see?
Yes.
So if it's good for, what do you say, Bandula?
The
sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander.
But a viewer is asking me this question. Perhaps these guys, the lobbyists are using, maybe they are being used, the lobby firm is being used to bribe somebody or other without our knowledge.
That was speculation by us if you were to say it, but
yes,
the viewer is entitled to say it. But going back to that earlier question, remember that there is a check mechanism. Now, the famous case of the Pergo Dam affair in Malaysia was where a ministry in England, in UK, entered an agreement with Malaysia, and a public interest group took that on in a court of law and said this minister had no right to expend taxpayers' money on this agreement. You follow? So this is also a good eye watch for those people, civil society groups that are monitoring out there, to see whether this sort of expenditure can be justified.
Indeed.
Do we need, when we have a fully paid grade A foreign mission there, do we need to pay someone else the same amount of money for what appears to be to do the same thing? This is something that the parliamentarians need to, I think, bring out.
And also, sorry.
I've got this message. This is obviously from somebody who's in the know. He says that in the United States, nothing happens in the Senate and Congress without lobbies. The government per se, presidency, State Department, etc., are different. If you need to be heard and muster support in Senate and Congress, you have to lobby. There is no other option. When you want to meet a senator or congressman, etc., it is customary at times. You have to contribute. This is official and declared. and the same person goes on. Why do you think that the USA has what is called FARA, F-A-R-A, where all the lobbying contracts with all the countries are published on the web?
May I give a very quick response to that, viewer?
Yeah.
Now, we never, as far as I know, myself from Sri Lanka and two from Pakistan, India and Nepal and all that bandula, were invited by the state. Now we are at very low level, no? We are not like ministers and prime ministers and presidents, no. At a very low level, our delegation was invited by the State Department for a Future Leaders program. The 3 or 4 weeks we were going around 8 or 9 states in the US and meeting delegations of congressmen, lawyers, judges, Supreme Court judges, all that. We never had, as far as I know, any lobbying firm trying to get us appointment to do that.
Yeah.
That was done by the State Department, and the 2 State Department officials that went with us to those states, they secured the appointments, and we all had very successful meetings, and we still have those friendships maintained at whatever time, professional time that we need, we talk. So, my response to that view is, if at a very low level, the State Department can secure that to us. I don't see why we have to go paying lobbying firms for our government to work with the government of the US, particularly as Bandula says, when we are supposed to have this very
excellent relationship. We are like cousins, no?
with the West.
US and Sri Lanka today. And also, if I'm sure you'll agree, if Mr. Kadragam would have had, if he had done, he would have none of it. See, that was a difficult time, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, we never had lobbying firms. You don't need them. I still say you don't need. It's not a must. I mean, look at the relationship after President Sirisena came into power. The excellent relationship.
Let's look at that relationship soon after this very short break. Don't go away. This is, after all, Newsline. Welcome back to Newsline, live from Dawson Street in Colombo. My guests, Bandul Jayasekara and Krishmal Wanasuriya. Here you go. Captain Skeptical, obviously, here. The new regime is doing exactly the same what the Rajapaksa regime did. So, what Rajapaksa did was correct, question mark. How do you respond?
No, I don't think that wasn't correct. This is correct.
Right.
Because
two wrongs don't make a
yeah,
right.
it doesn't. So so the platform was okay. This was a big issue also during the elections, using these lobbying firms and how much it was paid. So it's the same thing. Till if Sunday Times didn't expose this, it wouldn't have come in the open.
Indeed.
So this is why we have to talk for us about right to information.
Indeed.
You think this information will come? And also, if you look at the Sunday Times article yesterday, they said more questions than answers.
But, I might as well mention it. There are various anomalies here giving rise to some form of question mark or suspicion. One, of course, is that this the contract was actually signed at the end of July here. And it says that the contract shall begin from the 1st of July, but the contract is signed at the end of July. Okay, so that's a few days, it's a month, that's fine. But my concern is that this firm, STNR, appear to have started work in May. On the 2nd of May, they've made a contribution to some report. And their expertise, as Krishmal pointed out a bit earlier, appears to be one of a legal firm, and their tagline suggests as much: customs and international trade law. What on earth is such a company specializing in that doing and reporting on focusing efforts on the peace process? What peace process?
For a customs and international law firm.
Exactly. I'm sorry. This is absolute tosh, not required. We'll just put it in the dustbin. That's what. That's the only place. It's absolutely rubbish.
On the dates you were mentioning, doesn't another issue arise? If they had started work in May, as you say,
yeah,
and mid-July they have signed an agreement backdating it to 1st July, then there was no lawyer-client privilege. During that time, this agreement was not valid.
That's right.
You follow? So what they may have done or ought to have done and wouldn't have done was not bound by that.
Well spotted. Here, look. Let's put this right. Here we go. Minister Malik Samaravikrama, come over here. Come on our program. Come on Pathikada. If you are more familiar in the Sinhalese language, you choose. You can do it on Pathikada. You can do it on Newsline. You come here. and you explain to us these anomalies and these explanations that we'd like answers to, instead of having parliamentary privilege and lecturing the media on the need to be responsible.
So maybe we can have a debate with Minister Malik Samarikam and Sajin Vaskunath.
Absolutely.
How about that? That's
Absolutely.
Ismail.
That might be a good idea.
Yeah, that'll be a good idea. Face the nation. Yeah, he can face the nation.
Indeed, indeed. So, you know, we must give them the opportunity. We'll give the minister an opportunity. But we don't, there's no point in lecturing us and warning us, de facto warning.
For us, who's paying for this? A central bank involved? Previous
the previous one was the central bank, and apparently that was approved by the then monetary board.
Yeah.
Unlike, thank you for mentioning this and giving me the opportunity, unlike the bond scam, 1 billion became 10 billion, and the monetary board of Sri Lanka, the de facto owners of the central bank, did not know about it. And why hasn't Mr. Mahendran even bothered to explain that bit? Or indeed the Prime Minister, who seems to know so much about the bond scam, right? Why doesn't he give us an explanation? Why is it all shrouded in secrecy? And do we need lobby firms to dress it all up? Maybe that's why we need a lobby firm, thanks to all the negativity that the central bank bond scam attracted. And so you now need a firm to try and paint a better picture. But then again, it's a law firm. We
expertising in customs and international trade.
Indeed. I'll give you maybe, you can say what should be done, how should it be done, even if we, let's say we need a lobby firm.
I believe now that the issue has been brought out thankfully to the media. Parliament needs to get into its watchdog activity, perhaps through the COPE, or if not by the Auditor General. They need to go into this expenditure and see whether it can be justified. Remember, this is once again the need for a new audit act to come in, where you look at value for money rather than just when there's a bill for the expenditure, and that is still in the pipeline. It's still not out. So I hope that Parliament and the Auditor General and everyone concerned will go into this expenditure and justify to the tax-paying national Sri Lanka, who absolutely, the sovereign power of this country is absolutely held by, as to why this expenditure was needed and can it be justified.
And what I have to add is, for us, this government has excellent relationship with the West.
Indeed.
The previous government antagonized the West, so it's excellent relationship.
Yeah.
So why do we need a lobbying firm to deal with the United States of America? I don't think you need, because they got the highest contacts.
Indeed. So perhaps Mr. Samarikama, the minister in charge of international trade,
he speaks the language of Americans.
he speaks the language of a businessman.
Yeah.
He came into this government on the national list.
A successful businessman.
His name featured in the bond scam because he attended a state meeting of state officials, and he had no role other than when a young journalist asked him why he was there. He said, oh, he was there as an advisor to some senior person in government.
Before you close up, can you just look at your other headline also?
Indeed.
And say, well, if we congratulate the Honourable Prime Minister for
Absolutely.
asking why 9 Olympians went with 40 odd officials.
Very valid question.
Yeah. So similarly, we would expect the Honourable Prime Minister to question this also.
Absolutely.
As to why we needed the ₹1,000,000 spending when we had a Great Day ambassador.
Absolutely. And the Prime Minister might give some work to the, I think he's appointed a committee to oversee report matters from the Foreign Ministry. And perhaps he can find out why this matter was sort of ignored, and the Foreign Ministry only found out when the routine cabinet paper came. By then, of course, all the work's been done. So perhaps the Prime Minister can find that out. Although I rather suspect, Bandula, just before we finish, that it would be easier for the Prime Minister to just call up his chum Malik and ask him. On that note, thank you for watching Newsline. Thank you, Bandula Jayasekara, Krishmal Varnasuriya. And have a great day ahead of you. Take care and God bless.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.